What is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to explain to you the DJ mode which Roland have included on the SP404 MK2. This is a brand new feature and it allows you to basically DJ live. Now one of the big things that the 404SX I think in particular got famous for was doing live DJ sets, and this feature just makes it a little bit easier to do that. I'm going to walk you through all the features and hopefully give you a decent amount of information about this. A few of you have been asking about this feature in the comments, so it's really good to be able to do a video about this, and hopefully it answers a lot of questions for you guys. So let's get straight into this one now. Let's get into DJ mode, and to do that you can see here there's a little line and there's some text underneath that says DJ mode. And to get into it, all you have to do is press D, I and EJ, those two bank buttons at exactly the same time. And that puts you into DJ mode. Now the screen here you can see now has completely changed. We've got two faders in the middle. We've got the tempos of each side, each channel. We've got other bits and bobs going on as well. We've got stop underneath that little menu. Channel 1 and 2 obviously there. Q mix, now that's going to be really important. So on the left you've got C, which is Q, and that's basically your headphones, and then M is monitor basically, or mix or master I guess it could stand for, but I do think that stands for monitor, but it could apply to any of those words really. We've got a menu down in the bottom right hand corner here, and this is where you're going to be doing a lot of stuff on the fly, and it's where you're going to be setting things up as well. So that's what's going on with the screen. I'll dive into the menu in a bit more detail in a minute. Now coming down to the buttons, you will see above the left and right hand side of the 16 pads here, we've got channel 1 and channel 2 with these white lines around the top of them. So this is essentially divided into two now, like it says at the top, channel 1 on one side, channel 2 on the other. So for each side here, the buttons are exactly the same, they're just completely mirrored. We've got bend, we've got BPM change, we've got back to start, that is, so it takes the sample that you've got loaded into this channel back to the start. Sync, which lets you sync up the two sides together. We've got start and stop, and Q. So basically all these little tooltips that we've got on the bottom left of these buttons, they're all for DJ mode and not really for anything else. So it's nice and clear, everything's labelled, and you're never really going to forget which one does what, because it's pretty straightforward when it comes to the buttons. And just going back to the sync there, according to the manual, when pad 10 is pressed, the channel 1 sample follows the tempo of the channel 2 sample. When you press pad 12, which is the sync on channel 2, the channel 2 sample follows the tempo of the channel 1 sample, so that's how that bit works. Right, so let's get into the menu next. If we click the value dial, which is a new addition to the 404 MK2, we have some options here. So channel 1 select, channel 1 edit, channel 2 select, channel 2 edit, and cancel. So this is where you're going to assign the samples to each channel. Channel 1 select, I'm going to go in and A6. I know that this is a loop that loops perfectly already, which is a beat that I've been working on using resample. So I'm going to put that loop in, I'm going to press enter. And then I'm going to go to channel 2 select, and I'm going to go to F9 for this one because I think that was a full loop as well, but we'll find out I guess. So now that we've got those two channels loaded up, we can hit start on one of these and start playing music. So go ahead and press start on pad 13 and I'll fade that up. So these two dials in the middle, the yellow and the blue for me, they fade up channel 1 and 2, and you should be hearing audio now. Okay, that's about as loud as I can go for my recording. And what I'll show you now is that you can fade between those two very easily. So as long as you've got this one playing as well at the same time, which you won't be able to hear, hopefully, it'll just be playing in the background, you will be able to hear it through the headphones. I can then fade any other track over the top pretty seamlessly, depending on how well you can twist the dial. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that now. Okay, so hopefully that shows you guys how you can fade between the two tracks. Now, this is the beauty of this mode, is that if you then want to go in and set up another track to fade into, you can do that on the fly quite easily. This is going to be basically impossible to show you guys because I'd need another input from my headphones, but I'm having to listen to my headphones to do this video, so you're just going to have to trust what I'm saying on this bit. But basically what you can do is set your cue using this dial at the top here. You should be able to see that slider going across. You set that cue mix right over to the left, which means you'll only be listening to the cue inside your headphones. You won't be listening to the master signal going out or the monitor. Right, so once we've got the cue set to the left, we want to change the channel that's not currently playing. At this moment in time, it's channel 2, which is at the bottom of the value in terms of the mixer, in terms of the slider. So that's the channel that we're going to want to edit. Channel 1, you're just going to have to imagine here that that's still playing along. You'll be able to hear the beat out of the master signal or the monitor, and we hit Q. Now what this means is I can listen in the headphones to something that I want to add to channel 2, and this won't go out of the line out to the back of the SP. So I'll set up Q, and then I go into menu and I choose to select again. So it doesn't matter for this example, but it could be any pad on your SP. You want to put a new song in. Let's just say I haven't used F9 yet, so I'll press F9 again. You'll be able to hear that in your headphones as well. You'll be able to monitor that and see which track you're even adding in. You press enter, and now that's ready to go. And then obviously you press play again, and you'd fade that track in. So you can change tracks on the fly, and once you've done that for channel 2 and you fade that up and that's playing, then you could go in and change channel 1. And it's an infinite cycle. You can just keep doing that as many times as you want with full tracks that you've got loaded into your SP. So super nice and really useful for live sets. One thing that I did want to mention inside here is the channel 1 and channel 2 edit. Now, I've played a good few gigs live with the SX, and this is the last thing I'd want to be doing when I'm performing, is editing samples and looking at waveforms. In the heat of the moment, when you're on stage, people are listening to you, people are watching, you do not want to be fiddling around trying to find a perfect start point and end point. But it's in there, you can do it, and obviously you can just do that on the cue as well, so no one in the audience will be able to hear what you're doing. It'll only be the headphones getting this signal. So if you really did want to go in and edit a loop on the fly during a live performance, you can go ahead and do that in this screen. You do get a series of options here as well. You can literally do it by value here, and you can use the buttons, as you can see they've highlighted here, you can use them to enter a value. So say I wanted 123, you can add in 123 and it'll set a start point there. I honestly do not know why you'd want to be doing that live. You'd want all your tracks ready and you just fade in between the two of them if you've properly prepped your DJ set. I would never ever want to be doing this on the fly, but like I mentioned, the functionality is there if you did want to do that. If you have got that sort of very mellow vibe when you're performing live, that very mellow mindset that you can go in and start messing around with quite technical things like that, then that's really cool. Yeah, you can go in and use that, and you can do that for channel 1 or channel 2. So yeah, you could go in, edit those, and then play them further down the line. Now, in terms of effects, you can use the effects when you're performing beats, and basically with the effects, you can use any of the effects at the top and in the menus as well. The menu comes up the same as it does when you're trying to just add an effect to any sample on the SP. And on top of that as well, I will talk about buses in the future, but it is quite confusing. I'm still trying to get my head around the whole thing. If you have your buses set up, you can get into the effect settings whilst you're performing, and bus 3 and bus 4. So basically you've got 4 buses. 1 and 2 are for pads, 3 and 4 are for the overall device. So you can go ahead and add whatever effects you want to bus 3 and bus 4, and that will put it on the whole signal that's leaving the SP. So now if I go ahead and play this sample, it should sound like it's got those 2 bus effects over the top, which are compressor and isolator. So let's have a listen to that. Okay, so I think all that's left to talk about now is what the individual buttons do here. So the bend mode is kind of like a simulation of a vinyl slowing down or being sped up. So I'll play this loop again. And that's not a permanent thing. As soon as you let go, it slowly goes back to normal. So you could use that to end a track. That's quite a nice feature, or you could just add it in as a little effect. You can also edit the BPM. So I think this will be especially useful for people that are doing dance music. If you've got 2 beats that are very slightly out of sync, you'll be able to just edit the BPM on the fly and get those matching perfectly. And again, like I mentioned, you'll be able to use the cue mix to listen to what you're doing before that actually goes out to the audience as well. So that's super handy. So let's say, for example, I've got this loop going again. And that does a pretty clean job of editing the BPM without adding any noise or artifacts to it. There may be a shortcut to do this, but I'm not entirely sure if there's a quick way to get that back to 100% speed again. I would just have to use the plus BPM again for that and get it back to 100% on the screen. So you do have the visual side of things to get things back to the normal speed of the sample, but yeah, there may be a shortcut for that. I can't find anything in the manual, so you would just have to press the plus or minus to get it back to 100%. This button just takes the sample back to the start, so if you're in channel 2 and you want that back to the start, for example, if you want to nudge it back to the start, then that's what that button's for. Sync, I will try this. I've not actually tried this yet, but we'll try and sync 2 of these together. So let's see if I press sync on that. That seems to go ahead and try and sync the 2 tracks together like I mentioned at the start of the video, and then obviously you've just got the play and pause button at the bottom as well. So I think that's pretty much everything for the DJ mode, guys. If there's any questions that you've got, please ask below. It's quite a nice little feature. It allows you to fade between songs indefinitely, infinitely, because you can keep queuing different songs in. So you probably will have to accept that everything's either going to have to be a fade between tracks or a sudden stop and start, unless you can mix them perfectly using Q, which you probably could do, especially with dance tracks where it's got a very consistent kick drum going. You'd probably be able to mix those quite nicely. So lo-fi beats for this, probably not the best example. I think for a DJ set this would be even more powerful. But again, it gives us the option for lo-fi sets as well, or hip-hop sets. You can just fade between the tracks, you can stop them and start them. Personally, I see some advantages to it, but I quite like the old way, how I used to DJ with the SX, where you just have full tracks on the pads. And what I used to do is have a row at the bottom of ways of just running one track into another, so it could be like a little voice sample or a bit of spoken word. You'd have a track fading out, I would fade it out when I was building it and put it into SP, hop onto a little noise break or some sort of interlude, and then you could go into another pad. So personally, I think I would probably stick with that, just because I don't really like having to fade. I don't like having to dig into the menus to change the track every time I would need to cue a new track in. But like I say, I think for dance music in particular, this will be a much more useful tool. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think of this and whether you would use it. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the features that I've mentioned. There probably will be some little bits that I've missed. It's very hard to cover absolutely every detail in these videos. But I try and be as thorough as I can. But yeah, if I have missed anything, ask below and I'll try and answer your questions. Like I mentioned recently, I am getting a bit bombarded at the moment, but I'll see what I can do and I'll see if I can answer your question. So yeah, that's it for this one, guys. That was DJ Mode. I hope this was useful and I will be back with more content very soon. Keep making beats, guys. Peace!